Hi everyone, welcome to Kitaabi Cabins. And today is the Thursday stream, and I know for those of you just joining, I know we were supposed to have our book a month ka discussion today, but we're also. Hi everyone, welcome to I Kitaabi really got. Cabins. I need to mute my side. Yes. Sorry about that. But yeah, I know we were supposed to discuss remnants of a separation today and reveal the book for the next month. But we'll be doing that on Monday now, 4th of July. Anchal is going to join us, who's the author of the book that we picked up for the month, Remnants of a Separation. And yeah, we'll also host a discussion on Monday and regarding the book that we're picking up for the month of July. A new video will be out tomorrow and we'll be revealing the next book for the month of July. And I hope everyone will like it. Is baar humne polls nahi kiye because we're not trying to kill democracy here, but we're just seeing how it works. But hi, Ishan is here, Asna is here, Mugdha is here. Hi guys, how is everyone doing? And yeah, let me know if you can hear me well and if everything is fine. Utkarsh is here. Hi Utkarsh. Where are you guys joining from? This is nice. I always come with zero expectations on Kitaabi Cabins, which is nice. It's a nice way to have the discussions. So lately you'll realize how I'm trying to do streams on Kitaabi Cabins is like I take up each stream and it kind of is a prototype for a new video. So for example, we did recommendations on love, and now we're doing recommendations on, today we're going to do recommendations on relationships. And I have a very special guest with me and I'm going to tell you more about it later. But yeah, and next week, for those of you who follow Trivarna Hariharan, she's one of my absolutely favorite people to stalk on Instagram and talk about on Instagram. She's going to join us and we're going to talk about recommendations on anger. I think anger is one such emotion which I personally have not explored a lot in my reading, and I thought that'll be just great to talk about. And oh wow, there are so many people. Ishan is doing well. It's raining in Kanpur. It's raining in Chandigarh also. Today, I don't think I posted it anywhere, but so I had to go somewhere, and it was all. There were no roads. It was just water. Utkarsh, where are you from in Himachal? Ashish is here. Ashish is from Jharkhand. Kriti is here. Narendra is here. Narendra is in Bangalore. So guys, all of you who are joining from Bangalore, I'm actually planning a trip to Bangalore in the month of July, I think somewhere around 15th, 16th. And I'll be doing a small meetup there. We'll be doing a BYOB event, Bring Your Own Book. And I'm very excited about it. So if you're in Bangalore, please stay on a lookout for any such posts or updates. And also this Sunday, if anybody is here from Chandigarh and Tri-City area, we are doing our first ever official offline book club session in Chandigarh. It'll be again another BYOB event, Bring Your Own Book. I think it's kind of a nice icebreaker of sorts. So we believe in BYOB events, Bring Your Own Books. And yes. And Kriti is here from Assam. Hey Kriti, nice. Narendra is from Bangalore. Chanda, hi Chanda, how are you? It's raining in wow, it's raining everywhere, I think. Seka Sushi, that's an interesting name. Chanda is also from Delhi. We did a BYOB event in Chanda also. Utkarsh is from Shimla, but also in Chandigarh right now. Dude, you should come for the BYOB event that we're doing on Sunday. It'll happen at 10:30 a.m. and it'll happen in Social Sector 7. मतलब बाकी सबको अभी तक डिटेल्स नहीं बताएंगे, but because you guys are joining for the live stream, I'm revealing it here. Villupuram, wow. Deval. So I don't know if Deval, you know it. Deval is one of our godfathers and of Chalchitra Talks. And we have so many people from Pune, and now along with Sumit. Sumit is another godfather from Pune, and we've given a new name to the Pune people here, Pune Mafia, because we get so much love from Pune. But yeah, Social Sector 7 will be there at 10:30 a.m. It'll start, so थोड़ा सा लेट हो सकते हो, 35 तक चल लेना, not a problem. But please be on time if anybody is here from Chandigarh and the area around. Hello from Always Trending Mumbai Rains. Hi Hussain, how are you? Deep is from Rajkot, Aman is from Dehradun. This is nice, guys. So I'll quickly tell you about today's session also. Yesterday, okay, there is this community of people called there is this place called the Abstract Room. It's an online platform, and now they're doing offline events also. And it's just a beautiful community where you can talk about art. And yesterday I was very fortunate to be a part of one such session. They were doing just like a book a month. They also have their own a book a month of sorts. They pick up books and they also watch movies together as a community, and then they have discussions around it. So yesterday I actually got to be a part of their discussion session for before the coffee gets cold. And I think the founder Sankalp, he's just 21 and he's doing an amazing job of building a community that is so passionate about art and especially books. It was so nice to see people who talk about books. And because I was a part of the before the coffee gets cold, there were people who were talking so passionately about how it's written, the story, the plot and everything. It's kind of a lesson how we should pick this is something we should learn from them, because I realize a book a month की किताबें बहुत लोग नहीं ख़त्म कर रहे हैं. Like, guys, homework करो. But yeah, it was I was really happy to be a part of that session. And today I've invited Sankalp as well, and we're going to talk about relationships. We're going to share our recommendations on relationships. And I hope to explore books, movies in the process. And if anybody's here from the Abstract Room, guys, do comment down below. Here from the Abstract Room or something. And yes, Sankalp is here, and I'm just going to ask him to turn on his video and audio. And yeah. Hi Sankalp, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine as well. What's up? क्या चल रहा
All good. सब बढ़िया. मस्त पनीर की सब्जी खाई और बैठा हूँ आराम से.
है? Nice. Wait, Anandita is here. Hi Anandita, how are you? And yes, Sankalp, tell us about the Abstract Rooms.
Yes. Okay. So the abstract. First of all, hello guys. I can't see you, but I'm very glad that I'm able to. I'm
I've
here.
shared
I'm
the
very glad.
YouTube link with you, so you can also check out the comments if you want to.
Right. It's in front of me. Yeah.
Great. I didn't know that. Aman is
Yeah.
from the Abstract Room. यहाँ पे Aman Mullah.
Yes, he is. He is. Yes, he is. अभी आएंगे थोड़े और धीरे धीरे करके.
You do offline meetups in Pune also, right?
Yes, we have done it. I mean, recently we have done. So our entire intention with I'll basically start off with talking about the Abstract Room. So basically, the Abstract Room is an art appreciation platform, as you said. We hold discussions of all kinds, like you said. 2 साल हो गए करते हुए, and it was always an online platform.
Yeah.
But recently, we started doing a little more offline things as well, because people are like, अभी finally मिलना है, अभी बहुत हो गया. मतलब online बहुत हो गया. So basically, our entire intention with the offline segment is to do experiential things, like I told you yesterday as well. So either it will be some sort of consumption, that is going to watch a play together, going to a museum and discovering the history of that place, or going and watching a film also together. That could be one aspect of it. Or it could be a book discussion, or some sort of a place where we constructively discuss something. So abhi recently हमने I think 4-5 दिन पहले in Pune we had conducted this. We went to watch this immersive play. So basically the concept is that it was a play by Anton Chekhov, like उसका Indian adaptation था. So basically the entire room जहाँ पे perform हो रहा था, the entire room is the stage. There's no like audience and stage. So basically the setup was of a shadi, and all the people who were coming to watch the play were Baratis.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. So if all the characters that were there were moving around the entire place, and we were involved in the play basically. So it was an interesting experience. After the play got over, we went to a friend's place, 12-15 of us, and we discussed about Chekhov. We discussed about adaptations from play to film and all of that. So काफी लंबा चला था, 2-3 घंटे तो वो भी चला था. So basically the entire intention is to consume things together and discuss about that. So Pune में भी वो चल रहा है, Mumbai में भी conducted a few.
You live in Pune, right?
I live in Surat.
Oh. So because I was going to pitch it to all my Pune friends who are here, and Godfathers, Gladiators, and everyone who's watching it. So I know Deval is here from Pune, and then we get a lot of love in Pune. So I was going to pitch everyone to be a part of this one. But okay. But guys, yeah,
No,
be a
obviously,
part of the
we have
Abstract Room anyway.
yes.
Yeah.
No, it happens in Pune regularly. Like every 2 weeks, we'll do something or the other.
Wonderful.
So there's a separate group on WhatsApp for that as well. So basically,
Nice.
anything we do, वहाँ पे update आते रहेंगे उसपे. Yeah.
Sweet. Guys, do join the abstract room because I was a part of one such conversation yesterday and I got so emotional because they was talking so passionately about before the coffee gets cold. So I think us Sankalp is doing a wonderful job with his team, and they will has commented how to know about the events.
I think I'd asked Vaani to put some links in the chat in the
Yes, I think they should be there by now. They should be in the description.
yes, I think the person who was asking, you will find it in the caption or the description. Sorry, वहाँ पे you will find some links of the abstract room. You can go and check that out through our website. You can register for our upcoming sessions जो online होंगे, and offline के भी events के you'll get through our WhatsApp group and everything. So you can become member with us basically. So but there's a separate thing that happens. या तो आप एक session आके you can see how it works for you. So members get a different sort of a treatment basically. They
Are
decide the
you?
kind of things
Have
we
you
discuss.
decided the book that you're reading for the next month?
Yes, we announced it just 15-20 minutes पहले. We are reading The Trial by
Okay.
Franz Kafka.
So, guys, पहले फिनिश अ बुक अ मंथ विद वाणी की जो बुक हम कल उठाएंगे उसके बाद रीड द ट्रायल एंड जस्ट ट्राई टू अटेंड देयर सेशन यू विल बी अमेज्ड टू सी द डिस्कशन दैट हैपेंस देयर बट प्लीज उस चक्कर में लाइक डोंट फॉरगेट टू फिनिश द बुक अ मंथ
वो भी किसी और को प्रमोट करने के चक्कर में खुद का ना ऐसे हो.
yeah but this is amazing. So Sankalp, I'll also start with जो हमने आज बात करनी है, the topic recommendations on relationships. And I was just I was looking at the books you've picked up for abstract, and you had picked up Sally Rooney ki The Normal People, right?
Yes, we had. Yes, we
And
had.
how is it? I think that's one of the most recent books that has really been recommended, especially in terms of identifying and understanding relationships.
Right. It's here with me. यहाँ पे करीब 1 minute. Yes, here it is. Sally Rooney वाला book. So we had picked this up. So I think what a larger consensus within the abstract room was that the web show was much better than the book. A lot of people felt that.
Oh.
ठीक है.
Vaibhav has
Because
recommended. I'm so sorry, I'm cutting you. Vaibhav had
yeah,
recommended me The Normal People
right.
as a book. He hasn't read the book. He's seen the TV show, and he saw the TV show. He thought the TV show was made for me, tailor made for me, but I still haven't come around to reading it or watching it. And it was in one of the polls also that we did for a book a month, but it lost by a
Right.
large margin.
No, I think what I personally also felt about the book was that see यार इतना high school content देखा है ना, that after a point it gets tough to follow that. Like for example, the last good thing in terms of high school content that I watched that wasn't just junk was Sex Education, which was really good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I didn't expect it when it started off that इतना deep में जा पाएंगे ये, but कितना कुछ explore किया उन्होंने वहाँ पे. And I was expecting something similar in this, but for some reason I just couldn't connect with the characters. Like personally speaking, okay, there are many people who did that, and so what was the thing was many people in our discussions who had joined were people who had already watched the show and then read the book. So for some reason they couldn't connect with the story. But one problem by writing style के जैसे बताऊं अगर मैं, the one thing I personally felt was that it was that the language was a little felt very amateur. Okay, I am no critic, okay, but I just felt it to be very amateur and pata nahi, it just didn't fit right for me. It just didn't sit right for me. And
Okay.
but again, I think it's a good commentary on modern relationships in a sense, especially people of my age, and the miscommunication that happens, and the thing we were discussing yesterday as well about this sense of inhibition we have
Right.
as people, right? कि हम में ही कुछ कमी है, सामने वाला तो ठीक है, हम में ही कुछ कमी है शायद. So I think that is explored really well in the book, and this sense of self-indulgence and lack of self-respect for yourself, and just nice discussions in the book. But all in all, it's not something I remembered for a longer period of time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because I've heard a lot about it, do you think do you know why it connected with the audience so much then? Because I've been only hearing about Sally Rooney and Normal People.
I don't know actually. I think there are a lot of people who wanted to discuss other books of hers as well, which they have found better.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the reason why people would have connected to the book is the couple of characters that are there, the protagonists that are there,
Mm-hmm.
it's like either you connect or you don't connect. वैसा लगा मेरे को personally तो. So
Okay.
I love the guy who was in the story, uh, in terms of his insecurities being portrayed and how identity crisis कैसे होता है early age में वगैरह वगैरह.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the reason why people are connecting is because कोई character पसंद आ गया एक specific, which is
Yeah.
they're able to follow their journey. Otherwise, I personally couldn't follow through. The reason that was कि वो same circle में घूम रहा था in terms of the miscommunications happening again and again, again and
Mm-hmm.
again, and
Yeah.
yeah, basically.
Got it. Nice. Do you have any recommendations otherwise that you think when I was pitching you the idea of let's do recommendations in relationships, you said I have all sorts of recommendations for all sorts of relationships. Which one do you want to talk about a particular one that is your absolute favorite?
Um, a lot actually, but again, so my understanding is that uh, any sort of relationship is a larger part of a certain narrative. तब मेरे को मजा आता है. If the relationship is not just the epicenter or the focal point of the entire conversation, I think it adds a lot more personally for me. So, for
Okay.
example, one book I would like to talk about is The Namesake. And The Namesake, में the relationship that was shared between, like if you watch the film also, Irfan Khan and Tabu, the characters that are there that are there in the story as well.
Mm-hmm.
उनका जो relationship था, the tenderness with which their evolution of the relationship was shown, from being in an arranged marriage situation to them living in a different country together. Like they didn't know each other well. Arranged marriage situation tha pura, right? But they are in a different country together, and और कोई नहीं है, so they have to connect. They have to, because that's home now for them. That small room they're living in is home for them now. And how it evolved over time with having two kids, and just at the end also Irfan's character dying, and just how she learns that she's more than just that relationship, and just there's just so much unsaid things. And I love Jhumpa Lahiri's writing. So I think that, so I like these certain threads of relationships that are coming in larger narratives. So Namesake is not essentially just about them. It's about their son, Gogol, who is coming of age in one sense. But this is such an important part of that, because this is the reference point for him to have a good relationship,
Right.
or something that he doesn't want, or maybe he wants in his own relationships. So I think it plays in the background, and I like when these things are in the background and not in the foreground, like relationships, because सिर्फ उस पे होता है तो मैं थोड़ा सा ऐसे हो जाता हूँ कि यार फील नहीं आ रहा.
Yeah. Nice. No, I completely understand. Is there anyone in the comment who's read The Namesake? Arnab is here, Arnab Datta.
You met him yesterday, remember?
Yes, I was trying to confirm if he's the same Arnab.
Yes, he is.
'Cause- yeah. So he's also saying he loves The Namesake. Nice. Do you also have any? So I want to talk about one book. It's called The Insomniac City, New York, Oliver Sacks and I. And if you know, Oliver Sacks was an author, and he was, more importantly, he was a neuroscientist, I think. I'm sorry. He's written the man who mistook his wife for a hat. He's written that book.
Oh, I don't know about it.
Yeah, it was written by his partner after he passed away, Bill
Right.
Hayes, and he talks about his relationship with the city of New York and with Oliver Sacks. And what I really like about the book is, of course, the way he describes his relationship with Oliver Sacks, how beautiful it is, and everything. But more importantly, it's a love letter to the city of New York. And what was really amazing to read about that book was how a relationship can be established between the city and an individual. How you get used to judging people, but not judging them, but more so observing them and placing them into compartments, and how you actually compartmentalize not only the people but also the people you meet in those corners of the places of the city. And I just think that's an absolutely amazing book, especially if you want to understand what a love letter to a city could feel like. And yeah, that's one of my recommendations on relationships, but with a city.
That's amazing. I think I don't remember the exact name of the book. I think if Radhika's there in the here in the live, maybe she could put it in the chat as well. So we randomly found this book. Okay, it's a sort of a travel memoir sort of a thing, like an anthology, basically a collection of essays on this travel journalist. और उन्होंने उसमें से एक चैप्टर था on Mumbai. and just the connection he has with Mumbai. So I think the book cover was okay. We're like, अच्छा ठीक लग रहा है, क्या लग रहा है, पता नहीं. But when Radhika read the first paragraph of the book of that particular essay, she got so. She's from Mumbai, for example. So, and I also have a connection with Mumbai. So, इतना emotional हो गया हम लोगों को पढ़ के. And she has read it, I think, thrice or four times that particular essay. So, I think one thing I remember from that essay about, like, it's about a love letter to a city that is Mumbai here. So, about the Marine Drive, the curve that is there. So, basically, usko as a metaphor use किया of a warm hug, like somebody trying to hug you, and like such beautiful metaphors have been used for every part of the city, like from Dadar to Marine Drive to this and that. And I think I also personally romanticize the idea of living in a city a lot. And for example, for me personally, moving from Surat to Mumbai and studying over there for 3 years and feeling the sense of कि ये छोटे शहर वाला mentality थोड़ा सा हो गया था. You felt left out initially, but COVID time I had come back home and then gone back again after a year. And when I sort of, it's like I was talking to the city. Like, याद है मैं आया था पहले. I just standing talking to the city itself. So I think one more, because you talked about New York, I remembered, it's not a book, but there are two films that I love about New York. It's by Woody Allen, this wonderful director. So unki films hai do, Annie Hall and Manhattan. So these are two films. I think if people, basically he is the proper quintessential New Yorker Manhattan guy in every of his films. He has made like, I don't know, 40, 50 films.
Right.
Yeah.
Chalchitra Talks, I think most of the people, I hope they know about him. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, the reason it's not just about New York, but I think I have actually saved this particular quote from Annie Hall, which also talks about relationships, because that's our topic, right? So I just thought might as well read that out, if you don't mind. Yeah, so it's the last line of the movie, like he's narrating it. So it's basically about relationships and why we sort of like it or don't like it, whatever. So the line goes, it reminds me of that old joke, a guy walks into a psychiatrist's office and says, "Hey doc, my brother's crazy. He thinks he is a chicken." Then the doc says, Why don't you turn him in?" Then the guy says, "I would, but I need the eggs." I guess that's how I feel about relationships. They're totally crazy, irrational, and absurd, but we keep going through it because we need the eggs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I really like that particular line a lot. मेरे background में भी Annie Hall का poster भी है.
Nice. Do you know, this reminds me of a book, a book which is actually a collection of plays and short stories by Woody Allen. It's called, I'll have to look for it. It's somewhere here. It's called, I think, Feathers. Oh, it's there. I'll have to wear my specs for that. I'm sorry. It's called Without Feathers. And it has one of my most favorite short stories in it as well. And I think you will really like it if you like Woody Allen's work, of course. And it has a short story called The Whore of Mensa. So usually when we talk about prostitutes, etc., it's usually something that's very physically intimate, right? Now, this one is what happens if you marry somebody and you're not intellectually satisfied by them. So there is a racket of people who kind of connect you to call girls of sorts who will intellectually satisfy you. So if you want to talk about, say, Albert Camus for an hour, you can just hire somebody for 2 hours who'll just talk about this. And then it also has like kitne depths mein aap ja sakte. Do you want to do it surface level? Do you want to discuss a particular aspect of his philosophy? Do you want to discuss a particular story? And they'll charge you by hour. And it's a very extremely interesting short story. And it's just, well, yeah. It's not my recommendation on any such relationship, but it's just a recommendation because you mentioned Woody Allen.
That's fascinating. I think because Woody Allen's another film, Midnight in Paris, is also an ode to Paris, and again, it's about literature and art and all of that. So he goes deep into. It's again about relationships and how you're not able to connect with somebody on an intellectual and philosophical level, which is why you don't feel like you belong to that particular time. And you travel back in time so that you can find your time where people like you can meet people like who would like art talking about art. So it's a wonderful movie again. Yeah.
Nice. Do you have any other recommendations? You were also telling me a lot of people from the abstract room gave their recommendations.
Yeah, they have actually. So, but what I'll do is I actually wanted to talk about. So what I did was I had a few books that I wanted to talk about as well, and a few. I had a few non-fiction ones that I would like to mention first.
Okay.
Just talking about love and talking about
Yeah.
relationships.
Sankalp, just give me
Yeah.
1 second. I want to address a couple of comments. I'm really sorry. So there is one comment. So I don't know if any mods from Kitaabi Cabins or Chalchitra Talks are watching. Guys, please. Angad is asking that he cannot load the form for the book club session that we're hosting on Sunday. The link, can you guys please share the link in the comments and perhaps pin it? And if anybody, Akash is here. Akash, can you please share the, okay, yeah. Can you please share the link to the session and the Google form that we have in the comments? Because a few people are asking about it. And Sangeeta couldn't hear the New York book's name. It's called The Insomniac City. Yeah, that's the shorter title, and you'll be able to find more about it there. Yeah, Sankalp, I'm really sorry I cut you off.
Yeah. Sangeeta auntie is our oldest abstract member
Wow,
in our
nice.
community. Yeah, so she's with us. Yeah. A lot of Sankalp OP happening, I just saw.
Yeah, she's written Sankalp OP. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people have done that. My God, that's nice. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
I realize there are a lot of people from the abstract rooms. Nice, yeah. Sweet. Everyone who's from abstract, please like comment down Sankalp OP. And even if you're not, you can do that if you just that'll
Like
be
जब
nice.
किताबी के में चलचित्र वाले वानी ओपी लिख दो and वो वाले संकल्प ओपी लिख दो.
But yeah.
Let's see
So
who wins.
I don't want to lose, but okay.
Sorry.
But yeah, Sankalp.
पूरी फौज लेके आया हूँ मैं आज.
Yeah. That's intimidating, but okay.
Sorry. I'm kidding.
Not
Yeah.
at all. Yeah. But you were telling us about the non-fiction books.
Yeah, so again, as I said, I don't like books that are completely about relationships, but like some aspects of it are about relationships. So there's this obviously Tuesday with Maury. Yeah, Tuesday with Maury is another book that talks about everything about life, and there's this one chapter that's about marriage and relationships, and I love that chapter a lot. Is because it explores how modern relationships work basically. There's this sense of like divorces क्यों बढ़ रहे हैं आजकल या फिर why is marriage not an institution as such anymore, and उसके ऊपर एक पूरा बहुत अच्छा एक discussion हो रहा है that about if you need to have a relationship with anybody, you need to have the same values, have the same interests at times, and you need to respect each other and all of it. So काफी अच्छा discussion हुआ है in that particular aspect. So I think that book for love and for everything else in life is the book that you could refer to. It's a narrative non-fiction sort of a book. So yeah, it's a lovely. Have you read it?
Yeah. I have read it, but I read it I read it in 2017 or 18. So I remember recommending it to a lot of people. And yesterday when Arnab was talking about Tuesdays with Mari, I was like, yes, I did the same thing with it. I didn't gift it to anybody. I recommended it to a lot of people. But it was beautiful and very heartwarming. I think
Absolutely.
in that regard, there's this book called I can't remember the name. There's this book called The Last Lecture as well that had the similar effect. Like Tuesdays is with Maury is pretty mature and it's kind of like an advice that's coming down from a mentor. But
Right.
The last lecture, and you can also find the lecture itself, which is I think approximately 40 minutes long, on YouTube as well. So it's by a guy. Have you heard of the book or the lecture?
No, I haven't.
Cool. So then I'll go in detail. So it's about a guy who's about to die and he's invited to give a last lecture. It's Randy Posh. And he's just got 6 months to live or something. And he decides to give this lecture so that his kids can remember him for who he was because they were pretty young. And it becomes his last lecture. So he talks about his dreams, ambitions, things he wanted to be as a child, and how he eventually achieved them. And now that he's passing away, how he's trying to fulfill his responsibilities, make sure that his wife and other kids are comfortable when he leaves, and everything. And it's such a beautiful relationship. If you realize, if you look beyond the gender side of things, if you look beyond that, you realize this is a beautiful book about a person's relationship with his dreams and the person he wanted to be when he was a child. And in the first slide itself, in the first chapter itself, he describes to you the dreams he had and how he went on to achieve each and every one of them. And I think that is one such beautiful book. And if you liked Tuesdays with Maury, I'm pretty certain you will also really appreciate the last lecture. And there was this one particular part in the last lecture which has always stayed with me. He tells parents, if your kids want to paint the room, let them paint it. Let them do whatever they want to on the walls, because it'll be a great reminder for them when they grow up who they were as a child. Something like that, on those lines. And I think that is a beautiful book to kind of explore the relationship that you have had with yourself.
Right. I think मेरे parents वो बात पे नहीं मानेंगे कि let your child do whatever on the wall, because the thing was I used to play cricket, okay, so I used to always like keep on bowling and batting in my room and in the hall. So the entire hall just had like these ball ke marks, and like just some people actually thought it's a design, okay. So every 6 months they had to come and get it painted again and again. So,
Wow.
yeah, basically.
I made my parents read that chapter so that they would allow me to draw things on my walls. But it didn't work out because they barely managed to finish a page. And it was on the third page where he actually talks about.
Right. There's actually a clash happening right now in the chat, if you see.
Yeah. But this is nice.
Healthy competition, guys.
Healthy competition. It's great. Sangeeta has written even Vaani OP. This is nice. Thanks, Sangeeta. But guys, do like the streams. The more you like the stream, the more it gets recommended to people. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to Kitaabi Cabins. Subscribe to Kitaabi Cabins from your mother's phone, from your father's phone. Take everybody's phone and subscribe to Kitaabi Cabins. We're about to hit 5,000 subscribers. Not really, but if you subscribe, we'll hit it soon. But yes.
Yeah, absolutely. वालों सब लोग कर दो, please.
Yeah. It'd be so nice. And guys, if you are here from Chalchitra Talks and if you're here from Kitaabi Cabins, do subscribe to the Abstract Room. We've mentioned the link in the comments, in the description. But yes, moving on to the next book.
Yeah, so another book that I had, again, because it's just talks about one aspect of relationships, is Sapiens.
Oh.
Okay, Sapiens. Do you know about the book?
I know about the book. Have I read it? I read it a long time ago. And
Right.
At that time, I did not enjoy it. But since then, I've realized I should go back to it, and then I'll probably love it.
नहीं, मैंने 2-3 बार पढ़ रखी है, because it just opened. It's one of, like, it's that book ना कि that opens up your mind about to ideas and concepts and how the world sort of works. So it was that book for me, and we read this book together in Ashtray also a couple of 2-3 months back. So basically, there's this aspect. There's this one thing I wish to talk about, because you're talking about relationships. The book talks about this one aspect where it talks about कि जो monogamy का concept है ना, ये monogamy का concept क्या naturally existing है in humans, or is it something that through culture and tradition we have created? So like उसके दो theories के बारे में बात किया था. So I would just like to read that out if you don't mind.
Sure. No.
Yeah, so there are two concepts basically. One is known as ancient commune theory, which basically means कि सब लोग साथ में मिलके polygamous तरीके से रहते हैं. So it's like the proponents of this ancient commune theory argue that the frequent infidelities that characterize modern marriages and the high rates of divorce, not to mention the psychological complexes from which both children and adults are suffering, all result from forcing humans to live in nuclear families and monogamous relationships that are incompatible with our biological software. तो ये एक थियरी है कि हम लोग एक्चुअली मोनोगैमी के लिए बने ही नहीं है, और हम लोग को उसमें ढला जा रहा है, इस वजह से इतने डिवोर्स हो रहे हैं या इतने इनफर्टिलिटी के केसेस आते हैं. So it like really messed up with my head when I came to know about this. It's a theory, okay? There's no
right.
Yeah. The reason there's no actual proof is also because they're talking about very, very old time, right? So us time pe there are no real tangible proof of life left apart from a few मतलब हमारे तो everything, for example, if we have to show how a relationship works today, there are so many ways we do that. Like we gift people, we like the clothes we wear, or there's so many ways you can show कि how relationships work. Like 100 साल बाद में लोग को ध्यान में होगा कि कैसे पहले होता था, और 1000 साल actually या उससे ज्यादा. But this is so long back, we can't actually have a proof of that. So it was one sort of a theory, and the other theory sort of is that basically, but many scholars vehemently reject this theory and insist that monogamy and the forming of nuclear relationships is a core human behavior.
Nice.
Though ancient hunter-gatherers tend to be more communal and egalitarian than modern societies, but still this separate cell or this jealous couple वाला theory जो है, ये बहुत शुरू से चलता है, and इसी वजह से आज की traditions या culture भी उसी पे based है. So ये aspect वो काफी interesting लगा था about relationships का like just कहाँ कैसे शुरू हुआ था.
Nice.
So
And
again, this
do
entire
you
book is
believe
not
now
about
in,
this.
do you believe in having multiple partners, or do you want to have just one partner? I know it's a very personal question, but like feel free to dodge it also. No pressure.
No. नहीं नहीं ठीक है. Monogamy is cool. It's very cool.
Because mama is going to watch it, or like in general.
See, मेरी mom है वैसे WhatsApp group में जहाँ पे link share हुआ था. I don't know if she's here or not, but that's not the point. But नहीं like देखो ना, मेरे को भी ना क्या बोलते हैं, infidelity से बहुत problem है, like any other normal human being. So
But not a lot
basically,
of people have problem with infidelity, from what I've heard from people. Yeah, but like some of,
would you have an issue with infidelity?
of course I would. इतनी modern नहीं हूँ मैं.
But I mean, again, like it's that one thing that I can't think rationally about. Like even when I'm watching a film, I get so involved if there's a situation of infidelity happening, I'll be like, नहीं मेरे को सुनना ही, मेरे को understand करना ही नहीं है. Like they'll try to justify, सुनना ही नहीं,
Oh,
मुझे
did you?
justify कैसे
What
करना है.
was the movie that came out recently?
गहराइयाँ?
Yeah, Gehraiyan. Did you watch it, or did you break your
Of course I
TV?
did. No, I didn't. तब इतना मेरे पास नहीं है कि मैं break TV करके नया ले लूँ. But I watched. So again, the film is not even about that exactly. Yeah, it's just the first half. The second half is completely not about that. It's a crime noir film something. But
Yeah.
basically, point being,
True. Okay.
yeah, basically I don't know. It's the one thing I can't think about rationally and be like, I understand it happened.
Right.
Don't understand. I don't
What's
want to
a deal
understand.
breaker for you in a relationship?
Could you elaborate on what deal breaker का exact meaning क्या होगा?
Means like so I can tolerate this and this, but if this happens, I'm out of this relationship. No matter how nice you are, no matter even if you're Mahatma Gandhi, I'll walk out of it.
Uh, I
I used
think
to be very bad at
having
that.
a no, I get it. Mahatma Gandhi is very problematic in that sense, but anyways, like relationship wise, is kind of here and there. Lekin, yeah, sorry. Talking about me, uh, I think one would be just lacking empathy for people who are less privileged than you, or just not just people, but animals and all of that as well. Just the way you treat people around you in that sense, like if you go to a restaurant and how you talk to people, or if अगर आप गाड़ी चला रहे हो तो अगर कोई dog सामने है तो क्या आप जल्दी चलाते हो या you wait and you know do something, like basically all those small details. But again, if they are ignorant towards that, or just ignorant towards what's happening in the world also, it's just a pet peeve, like hey, yeah, how do you say so political? That also could be one aspect.
Okay, got it.
What about you?
For me, I really, I don't know. I've never thought about it. I think like one of the deal breakers would be infidelity, uh, especially emotion. Okay, wait. Yeah, infidelity in general of any kind. And I think another deal breaker for me would be just somebody who's rude. That's it. Like you said, ignorant and different people. So I've got a like I've got like, I don't know, what do you call it? I'm very low maintenance, but I've got high standards in terms of the manners of a person. But yes, let's. Oh, wait. Deval had actually asked. Deval was in the comments and she'd asked me to talk about one book. And I can't believe it's not on my list. But yeah, there's this beautiful book that I want to recommend to you. And you should pick it up for your book session also. It's called On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous.
Yes, we are supposed to be there up soon.
Yeah, please make it. Like I would love to hear what everyone thinks about it. And it's such a beautiful book on relationships. It's a letter from a son to a mother who cannot read, and he explains himself to his mother, his relationship with people around him. He discovers that he is a homosexual person, how he talks about it to his mother, how he explains to her what he went through because he was an American, but he was an American Vietnamese. So, what it feels like. He talks about the relationship with language, etc., etc. And it was one of the most beautiful. I would say the writing is not good in all the places. There are three parts of the book, and I think the first part is the best, followed by the third part. And the second part is kind of like, okay, you can skip it. But I think this was the only book that has made me just sit down on the bed and just be like, oh fuck, what have I read right now? What did I just read? Like it gives you, it punches you when you're least expecting it. It punches you right in the gut,
Right.
and it's one of the most beautiful books I have ever read. Even though I wouldn't say like if I were to give it a rating in terms of how it is cover to cover, it's not great. But there are bits of it that will change you as an individual for the rest of your life. And I think that's a sign of a wonderful piece of writing. Somebody who's very capable to write even better. And that reminds me of another book, but I'll jump to it after your recommendation.
No, no, I think it's a book that we are supposed to pick up quite soon. काफी लोग ने, like there are many people who are reading it on their own as well. So again, it's a good thing that हम आपको वापस बुलाएंगे ना, तो we can pick it up soon basically. We wouldn't want
Yeah.
to delay this too much.
Yeah, guys, please vote for it in your polls.
Yes, अभी इस महीने कर लिया existentialism, next महीने go back to
अब
the
हम क्या
world being gorgeous.
करें? Yeah.
Yeah, so another okay, so this book so my mom had gifted my dad. Okay, it's and this मस्ती में actually किया था कि देखो कुछ सीखो इससे करके, इस बुक से कुछ सीखने मिल जाएगा.
Yeah.
It's known as Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Oh, yes.
It's
I've
that
read.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically I was I think in 8th or 9th standard. Okay, and मैंने अभी puberty hit हुई है and
Yeah.
दुनिया देखना शुरू किया है, प्यार में पड़ रहे हैं, तो कुछ क्या पता सीख ले यहाँ से.
Yeah.
So basically I had picked that book randomly. Okay, but there's this one, like I think it's काफी debated book भी है, ठीक है.
Yeah.
I mean obviously there's a lot of things and it's talking about only heterosexual relationships and what
Hmm.
generalized करके book है
True, true,
and
true.
everything.
I
But I
used
think that
to follow it to the T for a year, and then I was like, okay, no. I went from really appreciating the book to like, oh, this is, I think, one of those books you should not read, or maybe read to
right.
realize what you shouldn't really appreciate. But yeah.
But I think it helped me उस time पे थोड़ा सा. But the thing is, you're so self-indulgent when you're growing up ना कि it's all about you.
Yeah.
So basically, so एक part था उसमें about how men and women communicate, especially in times of distress.
Yeah, you know
Uh,
what? I was literally thinking about that part because it's that part is like a little sexist, if I may.
yeah,
But
it
yes.
is. But I remember this one, उसमें एक part था that men जब कोई despair होता है, कुछ conflict होता है, तो men try to go silent. They don't talk about it as such उस time पे. And women like to talk about it and get over it उसी time पे, एक तरीके
Right.
से. And क्या बोलते हैं, so women need to realize कि उस time पे try to be silent with men, and men need to realize उस time पे to actually be listening or all of that. तो मतलब आई लाइक हाँ यार, ये तो सही आइडिया है, मतलब कुछ कुछ करेंगे इसका. So it sort of worked out शुरू में, but then I
Right.
realized again that it shouldn't be generalized because at times लड़के को भी
Yeah.
बात नहीं करने का मन हो सकता है. हमेशा उनका ऐसा थोड़ी है कि प्रॉब्लम्स के बारे में उस टाइम पे ही बात करनी है. So there are a lot of aspects about the book that I again took to the team, but मैं puberty में था. So
Guys, how many of you have heard or read the book Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus? Please comment it down below. And Ishan has asked, am I excited for Silverstone? Yes, I'm excited for Silverstone. Sankalp, do you
what's
watch
that?
F1?
No. I'm a
Oh,
cricket guy. I'm a proper, which is why,
no
like, I think
problem.
Vaibhav and I, if I ever get to talk to him, I'll really connect with him. I'm also a Rajasthan Royal guy, so I think I'll connect with him well over cricket.
This is nice. You will definitely. Yeah, cricket is a. Yeah. I am not a big fan of cricket, but okay. And they will have said I hated it. Yeah. Yes, they will. All the women, I can, yeah, I don't know. So Ocean Wong, Anandita is like, and Ocean Wong is the best. That book is so great. It is, and Ocean Wong recently received an honorary doctorate by, I can't remember the name of the university, but when he did, I do not know how many of you saw the story, but so Ocean Wong received an honorary doctorate, Sankalp, and where he posted a story, and I don't know why, but I was in tears. I was like, I'm so proud of this person. He's the author of On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous,
Right,
but
right.
yes. And there's this book that I want to talk about. It's right here. It's on top because I always go to it. It's called The Whale Suite and it's by Aga Shahid Ali. It's a collection of his poems. So he was from Kashmir, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, right. And this is a collection of his poems, and I think it's one of the. I think it kind of brought me back to reading more poetry. And there's this particular poem called The Language Games in this book. So he's known for his book, The Country Without the Post Office. But
Yeah.
I fell in love with him because of language games. And it's such a beautiful book. It's about a relationship, of course. And it's about how sometimes when things go wrong, you're just desperate enough to preserve it anyway. And he says, okay, he starts I'm just going to read the starting lines and the ending lines. And he says, he starts with this: I went mad in your house of words, purposely mad, so you would give me asylum. That's it. Like, I went purposely mad, so you would give me asylum. And then, like, overall, towards the end, he's like, okay. And he's trying to make her mad or whatever, make him mad. I don't know the gender, but okay. And I lost, no chance of you insane. But I wanted you mad so I could cure you. Please, please go mad so I can build you an asylum. You always want to be the savior for the other person. I think this is like one of the books that I would want to recommend. If you just want to discover relationships in general through modern poetry. And there's also another poem here called Lenox Hill. The Lenox Hill is kind of a eulogy for his mother. It's named after the Lenox Hill Hospital, where his mother passed away. And when she died, he wrote this poem. And there's this one line here where he says, "Thus I swear, here and now, not to forgive the universe that would let me get used to a universe without you." It's just like, so I know I will get used to living without you, mother, but I am going to be angry at this universe because it's going to let me be okay without you in my life. And yeah. And Anandita is commented like stationery. Stationery is another poem. I'm becoming very self-indulgent. I'm sorry.
नहीं नहीं, आराम से आपका ही स्ट्रीम है, कोई बात नहीं.
But there's this particular poem called Stationery, and one of my really good friends did an Urdu translation of this also, and apparently everyone on the channel loved it. So it goes: the moon did not become the sun; it just fell on the desert, in great sheets, reams of silver handmade by you. The night is your cottage industry now. The day is your brisk emporium. The world is full of paper. Write to me. And its Urdu translation is the one that my friend made was, आज महताब आफताब नहीं बना, बस बिछ सा गया है सहरा पर, जैसे वर के चांदी तुम्हारे हाथों में पिसा हुआ. ये शब तुम्हारा ही कारखाना है, ये शहर तुम्हारी सरगम दुकान. दुनिया में कागज़ ही कागज़ हैं, मुझे खत तो लिखो. But yes, I love the last line, especially in Urdu. दुनिया में कागज़ ही कागज़ हैं, मुझे खत तो लिखो. Yeah, this is a wonderful, wonderful book, and I think if you have the time, just take a year to read this one. Like, take it like very slowly, and I'm pretty certain you will fall in love with Aga Shahid Ali.
No, so a few months back we had done a poetry meet on Aga Shahid Ali. I
Wow.
wasn't. I was a passive part of it because poetry में मेरा ज़्यादा indulgence हुआ नहीं है कभी भी. But there are a few people in abstract who are kind enough to hold discussions on different poets from time to time. So Aga Shahid Ali पे Veiled Suit से ही काफी सारे अपने poems पढ़े थे. And basically the intention of these poetry meets is to read their stuff and to understand who they were. So
Right.
I got to know a little bit about him, even though I've not like done my own reading on him, but just
Right.
fascinating. It's very fascinating.
Nice.
You know, आपके बोलने पे मैंने एक बुक लिया था जो आपने पता नहीं 1000-2000 रिकमेंड किया होगा.
A book of simple living. Nice.
Yeah, and this is from the Cambridge Book Depot, the Masuri wala place,
Wow. Nice.
where like Ruskin Bond keeps on coming and signing books and talking to people. So my dad got it from me from there. So
Did
it's
he get a
special that
signed
way.
copy?
There was COVID, so he wasn't coming out. Ruskin Bond. Yeah.
I totally understandable.
Yeah.
But yeah, but Book of Simple Living is really nice. It's about
It is.
relationship with nature.
Yeah. You wouldn't. So the first ever offline meet we had, like a proper offline meet we had, 2 months पहले in a there's this Title Waves bookstore in Mumbai. वहाँ पे we had held a discussion over there. So I was like, क्या पढ़े यहाँ पे? Like what sort of a reading should we do? And we had picked up this book because I remember picking it up because you said, and then I bought it and I was reading it on my own. And then in our discussion, we read this book together, I think 15, 20 of us. And like कहाँ से मिला था उस बारे में? I told, like I came to know from a friend जिसको मैं YouTube पे follow करता हूँ ऐसे करके. So basically all of this was the first word came to my mind when you had recommended it basically. So I've taken a couple of recommendations to the heart that you have done. और भी बहुत लिए हैं, कुछ मेरे बजट में आता तो मैं लेता नहीं हूँ, but it's always there somewhere in my head.
Which ones were out of your budget? We try to keep everything very budget friendly
No,
usually.
बजट ऐसे नहीं, मतलब अरे यार आप एक वीडियो में अगर 6-7 रिकमेंडेशन करोगे मैं कैसे खरीदूंगा वैसे बजट
True,
मतलब.
true, 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 true. That's why I believe in recommending one book in every episode, but there are people who are greedy. Just kidding. But yeah, this is nice. I'm so glad everyone enjoyed this. And Urja part of the Bombay
Yes.
meet? Yeah, she's here. Urja was there yesterday also, if I'm not wrong.
Yes,
I could be
yes.
wrong. Yeah. Nice. And do you have any other recommendations
I
on?
have a lot actually, but I would like to be very picky about it because I don't want it to want this to go on forever, right? So, but I would like to I like to recommend people to read Plato's commentary on love. So he has written some lovely things on love. Okay, so the word platonic love वाला जो एक है वो people keep on saying कि friend zone कर दिया, platonic है हमारा ये वो. It's very different from what Plato actually meant. So like it from a non-fiction standpoint, just to if for someone anybody who's interested in philosophy, there's I think a book called Plato on Love. So if you would, I think that is something people could read because उसमें he talks about love like a ladder that you have to climb. So it's basically love is the motivation for you that leads you to try and understand the concept of beauty better. And there are like 7 or 8 steps he has divided love into, starting from physical and then like stage barte to the last stage being spiritual in some way or the other. But it's written very beautifully. मैं उसका समझा नहीं पा रहा हूँ. But like there's a ladder you climb, and it's very beautifully explained how love works according to him. And again, because Plato के जितना भी works है, it's always in a narrative style, and Socrates is the one who's speaking, like his जो teacher था उसका. So in this also Socrates is actually speaking in this particular essay or whatever you call it, this dialogue rather. So उसमें Socrates is speaking, and but again it's not Socrates' work, it's Plato's work through the voice of Socrates. So, but again Plato का जो concept है about love is very fascinating. उसका ये मतलब नहीं था कि don't touch या platonic का मतलब ये होता है, but अभी फिर platonic का मतलब काफी अलग हो गया है. But that was not what he meant basically.
Okay, got it.
Very
I am
interesting.
definitely intrigued by this recommendation, then I'm going to read it. See it.
There's
also
another one in this similar category. Sorry, please.
which one? Please recommend.
Yeah, it's there's this another philosopher called Francis Bacon. He was one of the earliest proponents of individualism and industrial revolution and 17th century के around वाले के time पे था. So like I have this book of his. Okay, this is again like a very Tuesdays with Morrie kind of a read. It's called Essays basically by Francis Bacon.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are like, I don't know, 50, 60 essays that he has. This is the index. Okay. This is the first page of the index and the second page of the index. So these are two, three pages ke essays, and all like it's anything you can think of about humans and relationships and anything about humans, from jealousy, envy, death, relationships, religion, infidelity and ambition. सब पे उसने 2-3 पेज के लिखे हैं, and ये बहुत ही मुफट बंदा है, मतलब he doesn't stay back from like saying things that he has to. It was very interesting for me to read what he had said about marriage and single life and all of that, not because it's something I would like to emulate, but just how people used to think back then about and still do about relationships. So it basically, he said that क्या बोलते हैं, having a wife and a child, which again everything is from a he or a man's perspective back in the day, right? Philosophers के उसमें तो So I'll just read that small line out. It's not in today's English, okay? So just thoda sa bear karna, but again you will get the basic idea. uh, he that hath wife and children hath given hostages to his fortune, for these are impediments to great enterprises, either of virtue or mischief. Certainly the best works and of greatest merit for the public have proceeded from the unmarried or childless men, which both in affection and means have married and endowed the public. So basically, अगर प्यार ब्याह में पड़ गए तो कुछ बड़ा काम basically तुम कर नहीं पाओगे. And like basically unmarried men end up becoming, but it's true also, right? Like and not exactly in that sense, but like the craziest and the greatest artists of all times didn't have good relationships, and even today the most successful people financially also for that matter don't have good relationships. Look at Elon Musk, look at all the top ones that are there. uh, it's a thing. Do you think it's tough to relationship and ambition का वो जगल जो रहता है?
I don't want to comment on that.
अच्छा, sorry. Okay.
No,
I
you have
went
to
I went in a
apologize.
direction. Sorry.
But I just think it depends on the couple also. See, I think sometimes in relationships, something that's very important according to me is identifying your priorities. And it's not just about romantic relationship, it goes on for all sorts of relationships in your life, whether it is friendship or it is your sibling relationship or anything. I think something that's very important is that your priorities constantly change in the relationships. And sometimes just what happens is most people change their priorities after falling for somebody or when they come in romantic relationship. That's very unfortunate / fortunate. But I just think it depends on the priorities you have. Sometimes people are happier when they're happy with whatever they have and they kind of want to be content with it, and then they stop looking for more success, which might be success for you, and they might be successful in their own way, because again success is a very subjective term. So if you are talking by money matters, etc., perhaps the people we see have not had very successful romantic relationships. Um, but I think it's definitely a question of priority. Are you like Ambani is still married and he's very successful and of course very rich, and but then of course if you talk about Elon Musk, he kind of has not had successful relationships according to us, and he again is very rich. So I mean, I just think it eventually boils down to the priorities you have in life. Somebody's
Right.
priority might just be to earn so much and then just balance it out with a personal intimate romantic relationship with somebody else. And there might be somebody who's very successful in terms of money and other monetary pleasures, but is just very sad and alone and lonely in their personal life. Not a nice way to end the answer, but I just think I just think it depends on the priorities of different people. I don't think relationships govern it. If you want, I
Yeah.
think you can definitely balance out the two. The two of you can push each other to constantly grow in relationships, not just grow in a relationship, but also grow in your respective careers. But I think it's just
Absolutely.
individual.
Absolutely. But again, like just how it's depicted in pop culture as well. For example, if I give you two examples of films, one is Whiplash, and another is Bhag Milka Bhag. Okay. In both the films, if you remember, Whiplash May, he sort of did not go ahead with the relationship with the girl because he's like, you'll be a distraction for me. I want to be great and you will be a distraction for me. And in Bhag Milka Bhag as well, when he had gone to Australia and sort of had a fling with this his coach's daughter, and like sort of blamed her for not being good enough to win the race or like something like that. So it sort of leaves that thought in your head, na, कि, uh,
Yeah.
just that, मतलब for example मेरे को affect कर गया था बचपन में. I remember मेरे एक एग्जाम में कम मार्क्स आ गए, तो I started to blame the person कि क्या बोलते हैं, you have distracted me and this and that. This is very early, like 7, 6 की बात कर रहा हूँ, but it was an impulse because I was growing up with these films, just that I want to be great and you are being a distraction. But again, I know that that's not the case.
Like I
But
completely understand. There was this
yeah,
quote I used to blindly love. It goes something like it's lonely at the top, but it's downright brilliant. And I used to be like, okay, cool. Let's just keep ourselves motivated. But I think overall, for me as an individual, I've realized I need a balance in life, and my priority perhaps will also be the people I have in life. There are
Right.
people who will prioritize perhaps their career or monetary benefits over relationships that they have. And I'm not saying that's wrong. That's absolutely good for them if they can sleep well at night. I can't. And that's why I choose to prioritize other things also in life. But then that doesn't mean I'll earn any less or I won't be successful. I mean, at least I'm hoping that. I am speaking like a 60-year-old. Like, that doesn't mean I'm not successful. But it's just, I think it depends on how you're able to manage and balance out everything. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy balancing everything. And perhaps it'll be easier if you do not have a relationship, true, because there'll be no distractions and you can perhaps make it big for whatever you aim.
That's a
But
lonely life, right?
that's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth trying to have personal relationships with life in life.
Yeah. There was this another book that I read. मैंने लिखा था यहाँ पे that it's about lack of relationships that I under a bracket I had kept कि इसके बारे में शायद बात आ जाए. Into the Wild. Do you know about the film Into the Wild?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's based on a true story and then a book and then a film, right? So
Right.
I think people misinterpret उसका meaning बहुत ज़्यादा. They like I want to write about this properly or like talk about this properly that people feel that they follow the person's footsteps basically of going in the wild and all of that. But the entire point of that film was that the line through last mein, happiness is real only when shared. That guy was running away from all sorts of relationships in his life to get
Yeah.
some sort of intellectual enlightenment or whatever he wanted. So he dies, right? He dies alone over there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, he's not happy also, I think, at that point.
True.
People forget that
He wants to go home.
climax वो था. Yeah, he wants to go home, but he just can't. मतलब he
It's
just
one of my
can't.
favorite scenes from any of the movies that I've seen. It's one of my favorite scenes, and it's from Into the Wild, where uh, his mother also wakes up in the movie, and he's saying, "What if I were smiling and running into your arms? Will you see what I see now?" And I don't know why it stayed with me so much, and it's just, if you look closely, it's a call to be understood. It's call to be heard, for me. And I just think it might be really nice, and you might want things out of life, but when you have somebody who you can really share your happiness and sorrows with, it really can bring a joy. It can really add something else to your life that you're thankful for. Just to have communities, like you have the abstract room, we have Chalchitra Talks, and now Kitaabi cabins. It's just so nice to have, even like the smallest relationships you have with people who are a part of this community, they light up your life. And that will be any day much, much better than you living alone, all by yourself, trying to do whatever you want to do. But versus like making a small change or contributing to a small change in somebody else's life. And that doesn't mean just having a romantic relationship, it could be any sort
Of
of
course.
relationship. But
You know,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
sorry.
I just think we grew up at a time where it was very cool to not be emotional. And I'm very glad. I think a lot of us, especially my generation, so what, I'm 97 born, and we are trying to. I grew up at the time where it was like it used to be cool to be, like, hey, I am not very social, I am a loner, etc. I mean, I still am, I'm not a very social person, but it's always was cool to not be a part of a big friend circle, or it was cool to not be very emotional. But like, I am glad we're unlearning this now, because relationships are very important for humans. It's just simply, for me at least, it's nice to have people in your life
Yeah,
and relationships.
absolutely, absolutely. I think uh, if you can't be vulnerable in front of at least three people around you in different ways or different
I'm
stages,
just
or
counting the number of people vulnerable around. Are there more than three? Yeah.
if they are, it's good for you actually. That तीन से ज़्यादा है. Like again, मतलब not completely, but at some level, if you can be at different grades, if you grade the levels of vulnerability, it's important. And I think everybody has a role to play in. If relationship is an umbrella term, तो उसमें काफी सबका मिलके वो umbrella बनता है, ताकि आप वो जो बारिश आ रही है उससे बच सको, as in life is hitting you in that sense.
True.
So I think it's not just one person, uh, or just one entity in that matter. For that matter, it's a variety of people, firstly at different stages of life, at different points of the day, and like all these other टाइम एंड स्पेस के जो भी चीजें रहती है. एग्जाम्पल, अगर मैं दिन में ऑफिस में हूँ मेरे, और उसमें अगर मुझे कोई rant करना है, so I'll text my friend उसमें कि जो मेरी ऑफिस बड़ी है कि यार क्या ये पागल कुछ भी बोलती रहती, like I just do that to them. Otherwise I can't tell a childhood friend उस टाइम पे जाके ना कि मतलब यार उसको कॉन्टेक्स्ट समझना पड़ेगा पहले, पूरा वो
Yeah,
करना
true.
पड़ेगा. So again, everybody has a role to play in that sense, and it's just I just feel that I don't want to know, because you are also older than me, and I want to know from that, like, more seeing the world wala perspective
You
also. But
just made me sound like an auntie, like 37. You're older than me.
देखो
I,
relative
I took
sense
it
में बोल
like
रहा हूँ.
it hurt me. Just kidding, yeah.
तो वानी आंटी मैं बोल रहा था कि
That was unnecessary, but okay.
so basically my question to you, rather, like, there's a theory that I have, like a couple of theories I have. One is that if you uh, have to put in effort into maintaining a relationship, it's not worth it. Not that doesn't mean only from a romantic sense, from any sense. Like, do you think that makes sense? Because it's a theory that I have. Like, if you have to push too much to maintain that, then it's not worth it.
It really depends. I think relationships are. Yeah, sometimes you click with people. That's
Right.
something that's very instant. I meet somebody at a party and I really like what they're talking about. They really like how I speak about things. We become friends, we become best buddies and everything. But there comes a point where you have to constantly need a relationship. I think it's a give and take. You can't take the other person for granted. I think my best friends from school, they're still my friends because we constantly are there for each other. And it's not just like, hey, I need a friend, why are you not here? It's not just, it's always a give and take. I always You have to check on the other person before I do this. I check on the other person before I start my rant. And I don't take you can't take anybody for granted. The moment you start taking anybody for granted, I just think that's kind of disrespectful in a relationship, whether it's a relationship with your sibling, your kids, or even your parents. You always need to put in efforts. That doesn't mean you kind of make your life a living hell. Of course, there's a borderline difference between being toxic, being unhealthy, and of course, there is a difference between healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships. And I think you'll be able to understand it whenever it comes across. But you constantly need to put in efforts. You
Right.
will realize it in, I think, the next 4 to 5 years of your life. 4 years, I think. Like, I'm realizing it now. You constantly need to put in efforts. You can't take the other person for granted. I never understood. I understood it much later because I was like, hey, if you're my friend, you should be available for me. This is what I used to think. And but like when you grow older, you realize, hey, everyone has their own dark. Everyone has their own shit, for lack of a better word, and you constantly need to put in efforts. Like, I'm very respectful to my younger sibling, and everyone asks. So I address him as bhaiya. I call him very respectfully, with everything. And everyone is
You
like,
call your younger brother bhaiya?
yeah, I call him like, hey, bhaiya, come here. And everyone questions me like, why do you do that? Of course, I can just call like Divyam, chhote idhar aa. But it's just like a sense of respect that I
Right.
have for him, and thereby he has a sense of respect for me. And you kind of maintain a rapport with each other. And I think you have to constantly put in efforts. The moment your parents start taking you for granted, you kind of start holding out grudges against them. And I just think no matter what the relationships, maybe it's a blood relationship, maybe you're just best friends in school, you have to constantly put in efforts. You have to host dinners for them, you have to give them gifts, you have to shower them with praises, and similarly they'll just do the same for you.
Yeah, makes sense.
End of my end of yeah end of the counseling. But yeah, and I think you will begin to realize it in the next few years,
Hmm.
months, or whatever, the more you grow. Because even the people
Right.
around you will grow. And not everyone will have the time to be there for each other. But
Of
just
course.
knowing that if something goes wrong, you can call this person up at 3 in the morning and they will for sure answer your call, be there with you, and hold you if you're crying. That is everything. That assurance is a sign that it's a good relationship.
I think that sort of a maintaining of relationships, sometimes I have felt that it has remained organic. Of course, checking up on people from time to time is very important. Of course, it is. But I have felt like till now, if I don't talk to a friend for even 4 5 months, and then वापस से बात करें, it still remains the same,
True.
you know. But again, it depends from, like, for example, I most of the friends I have from school, I don't relate to them on an intellectual level mostly. So for me to talk to them about art, for example, is not something I can do. बहुत ही क्या क्या पढ़ के आ गया, क्या समझ रहा है, ज्यादा अंग्रेजी छाड़ रहा है, जो भी मतलब, those
Yeah.
lines of the thought. So I can talk about cricket, I can talk about all other form time pass things as well, but not this. Now people, like say in abstract, for example, abstract sort of a thing, or even Chalchitra for that matter, provides this community जो उनको अपने बाकी लाइफ में नहीं मिल रहा है, दिस सेंस ऑफ एक डिस्कशन करने का मौका जो आप अपने दोस्तों से या अपने बाकी लाइफ में आप आर्ट के अराउंड बात करना हो, थोड़ा इंटेलेक्चुअल होना, तो आप सबको वैसा आपको स्पेस नहीं मिल रहा है. सो प्रोवाइडिंग, आई आल्सो गेट दैट इन एब्स्ट्रैक्ट फॉर दैट मैटर. सो हियर आई नॉट टॉक अबाउट बकचोदी बेसिकली. So I think it's sort of categorized like that, and like I require more intellectual simulation and less of bakchodi, so I can talk less with my older friends and more with the newer ones.
Yeah.
So I think it proportionate रहता है मेरे हिसाब से.
Yeah, I also have compartmentalized my friends in terms of this one is the one जिसके साथ मुझे gossip करना है. This is the one where I'll discuss books. This is the one where I go for like advice, career advice, family
Right.
advice, all the advice. This is the one जिसके साथ I just go shopping. This is the one where I go to for skincare and everything. So yeah, I've compartmentalized my friends as well. I hope none of them are watching.
They should not know.
But yeah, I mean, it's okay if you can't talk. It's just you can't. It's unfair for the other person if you expect that you should be able to talk to them about everything. I genuinely believe relationships are like Venn diagrams. Like you cannot concern yourself with whatever the other person's compliment is, and whatever they do not like. There's a proper intersection area where you meet and you discuss everything, and it holds true for everything, every relationship in your life. With your parents, with your sibling, with your partner, with your friends, even your neighbor. And I just deeply believe in that. Okay, this is not my business, and it's okay as long as you don't want to. This very interesting thing happened to me a few days ago. So one of my friends came and told me that I wasn't planning on telling you this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. And I was like, okay. And she's like, but like this person knows this person knows this person. So everybody except for me knew it. And instead of maybe getting angry on her, I was like, hey, I never gave her the sense of security to be able to tell this to me, because she probably thought that I'll judge her if she told me this. But hey, it's nice that she's telling me this. And I think that was a sign of maturity. And I was like, hey, that's proud of you, Vaani. You weren't angry. You just kind of were like, hey, I didn't give her the space or the security to be comfortable around me. And the moment you start realizing such things that speak about yourself as an individual as well, that means you've grown emotionally.
Yeah. I read this. I think a friend of mine had sent me this quote with a Instagram post or something about like I think it was in terms of relationships in a romantic sense, but it was to do with if like two plants growing together, sharing light, sharing space, sharing soil, but still growing independently. So I think I really believe in that, because what my understanding is that firstly, to love anybody else, you need to love yourself, or at least respect yourself to some level. Otherwise, you will sort of start blaming them or blaming yourself. Like example, like one recommendation I also had was Before the Coffee Gets Cold, because it's all about relationships. So I think if I hadn't mentioned that already, then please, like Before the Coffee Gets Cold is a book that is about relationships, and the fact that because they are unsure about themselves, they start blaming themselves for not being good enough. So my point is that, like, again, it's a theory that I had, that any sort of non-familial admiration or love or anything you get, this is something I've come up with because of abstract. Like, because sort of it's like when you community banta hai, so you get a lot of praise also for that. A lot of constant interaction मिलता रहता है. Example, कल भी आपने देखा था तो काफी लोग बात कर रहे थे abstract के बारे में, and about me as well. So you'll get a lot of good things to hear about yourself, and you feel very happy, obviously. But I feel I've sort of, for my own mindset's sake, what I've done is that any sort of non-familial admiration that I end up getting will be seen as a surplus and not a necessity. Because I think if I thrive on that, then there's some issue. Because when I don't get that on a regular daily basis, then that's a problem. So I think in a very stoic sense, I'd rather be someone who is okay with myself without getting admiration or being roasted.
True.
So I think if I can be in that state, तो प्यार मिले धोखा मिले, maybe I can be, if I'm happy with myself, तो कुछ भी मिले तो अच्छा ही होगा. Like it's always a surplus and not a necessity. Like वो concept होता है ना कि like my better half or you complete me. मेरे को वो पल्ले नहीं पड़ता है थोड़ा सा कि
Absolutely. I
because it's
believe there's a reason
yeah
why you call them your partner. Like, it's my partner and I. It's because they're your partners in things.
right.
And it's not like, hey, that's my better half. You're whole in yourself. You're just finding a partner that you can have to enjoy things with in life. And that partner could be anybody. Just I want to emphasize that it's just not romantic relationship. It could be anything. But yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there were a couple of more books that I had. Like I just
Right.
wanted to mention them. One was A Man Called Ove. Another fascinating book. A very emotional book. It's
Right.
about. I think it belongs to that category or that subgenre of stories where it's about leading a second. क्या बोलते हैं second starting a second life like after 50-60 के बाद में how do you live with yourself and the world and how it's changing, and it's about basically a guy जिसकी wife मर चुकी है and there's nobody else in this world he liked before that or after that, so how does he deal with a world where she does not exist, and how does he's trying to commit suicide but he's not able to because just problems all the time, कुछ ना कुछ चक्कर में कर नहीं पा रहा है, sometimes डर लगता है, sometimes something else, and somehow he manages to live through because of the relationships he builds after there's nobody around him. So it's a beautiful book, and I think have you read it?
I haven't read it. I
You'll
started
cry,
reading
pakka
it a
se
couple
cry.
of years ago. I stopped midway. I don't know why.
Achha.
Because I think I just found a book to distract me. But yeah.
I think it's a very emotional book. We have actually put the video of this session out as well because it was so
Okay.
good. It's on our channel at YouTube wale pe.
Yes.
It's
Guys,
so
do go and
emotional.
subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So but like इस same सब genre में एक web show भी है After Life करके, a very similar show in terms of living, like how men deal with grief post 50 when a woman who understood them, like a person who's just not liked by anybody else but only by that person, and she dies, then how do they deal with the world? It's a very nihilist, whatever the right word is, कि का उसका ideology and how do they survive in a world and by forming new relationships, and something is keeping them alive, like some tangible thing or some relationship is keeping them alive. For example, in that afterlife, it's the dog that's there that keeps उसको रोज खाना देना है तो उसे रहना पड़ेगा, कौन देगा खाना वाना,
Yeah.
so that's what keeps them going. Here it is just the neighbors or just the fact that he has to keep his community safe in a sense, even though nobody cares about the place, but he's the one like मैंने responsibility लिया है, मैं ध्यान रखूंगा. He's one of those होता है ना annoying uncles building में जो होते हैं जो आपकी बॉल चलेगी तो वापस देंगे नहीं वाले. He's that, like it's such a इतना consciously उसको बुरा बनाया है ना, but still you feel so bad for him because you know why he's the way he is. I think relationships post like a very grief wale time wala is also a very beautiful subgenre to explore.
Nice. Yeah.
And one last one I would like to mention is Choker Bali. Choker Bali is by Rabindranath Tagore. The reason I love this book so much is it's like a very well made, produced, and written Sasural Simar ka. ठीक है, मतलब it's about the
Okay.
household का पूरा वो किचपिच मतलब सास बहू एंड परिवार के ऊपर ही है, but it's so beautifully written. It talks about young men and their sort of impulse to always cross the line of marriage, and like young women not able to stand for themselves, and one of them being the empowered women who has long hair, and you know she lives with them एक तरीके से and sort of is the problem in the house because she could be the one जिसकी वजह से इनका marriage खराब हो जाए. It's such a very well written story, and Choker Bali का English translation is a grain of sand. So as in वो grain of sand आपकी आंख में जाता है irritate करता है ना, so that's the metaphor, like that chick that it's there in their house, basically that girl who's the empowered one in a sense, is an eyesore sore for the family, that
Got it.
you know she's going to probably mess up our
Oh.
relationships It's a very beautiful book. It's a very beautiful, and उसपे I think if people don't want to read the book, they can also watch Netflix पे there's stories by Rabindranath Tagore करके एक
Yeah,
series है, तो उसमें उसके 2-3 एपिसोड हैं. It's
yeah.
nicely done.
I don't know,
Lovely
for
book.
a second I thought when you were saying कि if you don't want to read it, you can also watch. I thought for a second you're going to say Sasural Simak.
नहीं.
But I
But
also
yeah,
have
please do watch Sasural Se Marka, guys,
yeah.
if you haven't
Shokar
already.
Wali reminded me of this book called Where Angels Fear to Tread. It's by E.M. Foster. I think I recommended it in my episode where I said recommendations on love, and this was one of the two books. And I now that I think about it, it's a better recommendation in terms of relationships because it speaks of how so English always used to like to be very sophisticated and proper. Now, imagine an English family because it's E.M. Foster, so it's written sometime in early 1900s, etc.
Yeah.
So, imagine an English family and a very flamboyant woman marries into it. And then, when the husband passes away, she runs away to Italy with and Italians, according to Britishers, were very stupid people who had no grace, villagers, that's what they used to call them. And now she runs away and she marries an Italian and has a child with him. And is raising the child that she had with the husband, sorry, who was the English husband. Now he's dead. And the English family decides that they're going to get back the baby because he needs education. He needs proper education.
Right.
And the villagers will convert him into becoming one of them. And so it's about the relationship within the family, outside, how the world perceives in them. And throughout the book, you're just like, what is this baby? And the whole line is like, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. And
Right.
it's also a song by Brian Adams, but okay. But it just comes in like how fools, the English, ran into the village where angels will fear to tread because it's not something that's a very wise thing to do. And it brilliantly talks about the relationship that you have with people who constantly want to micromanage everything in your life. Very funny and entertaining, but also like it's an unfortunate story as also towards the end. But yeah.
Because you mentioned this, मेरे से वैसे lyrical title है ना book का, तो मेरे को याद आया about A Thousand Splendid Suns.
Oh.
So like it's not about a romantic relationship. It's about a relationship between two women and how they sort of deal with oppression together. And in Afghanistan, like war-torn Afghanistan, it's such a emotion. Like after you read it, you इतना खराब emotional like हो जाओगे. मतलब it's very smartly written in terms of how to trigger the right emotion at the right times. The writer is very smart in that sense.
I
And
hate Khalid Hussaini for that.
have you read this book?
Yeah, I've read
Would
The
it just
Kite Runner.
yes,
So
the
there's
book.
this book called Dear Zari, and it has the foreword by Khalid Hussaini, and it has 13 stories. The author Zarguna Kargar used to host this show called BBC Hour with Afghan women. एंड हर एक एपिसोड में एक अफगानी वुमन आती थी एंड अपनी लाइफ की स्टोरी बताती थी एंड शी पिक्ड अप द 13 बेस्ट स्टोरीज एंड शी पुट इट इन दैट बुक एंड इट्स कॉल्ड डियर जरी बिकॉज जरगुना को सब जरी बहन टाइप्स बुलाते थे एंड सो इट बिकेम डियर जरी and the book is Dear Zari and has 13 stories. I don't think I've ever called my mother crying, thanking her for being a nice parent. Because I hold my mother's parenting in really low regards. But I remember calling her every time I read that book, calling her crying and like, just, thank you so much for being my parents, you're so nice.
You did good.
Yeah, you did well. Because it's such a heartbreaking story. And then I knew I would never read Khalid Hussaini because Dear Zari broke me into a billion pieces. That was I couldn't breathe when I was reading it because I was crying so bad. I was crying in the physics class when I was in class 12 because I was reading the book and I was crying on the back seat. And then I decided, let me read it again.
Are you sure it was because it was not physics?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain.
Of course, like physics तो.
Physics तो HC वर्मा भी नहीं रुला पाएगा. But yeah, and then 12th class में I was like, okay, maybe I was a child then. So I went to college and that's why I was like, let me try this again. I ran out of my class crying because, and everyone thought maybe everyone who realized I was crying was like, hey, what's up with her? did she have a breakup or what? But it was just, I was crying very badly. I called my parents. I was like, you're such a nice mother. Oh my god. But yeah, cut to I realized I'll never be able to read Khalid Hussaini. But a friend was like, hey, you're missing out on life if you're not reading this. And I was like, no, I know what I'm missing out on life and I want to miss out this part of my life. And he gave me
अब
the
कुछ नहीं
Kite
मिलता
Runner.
लाइफ में बनी.
Yeah. He gave me the Kite Runner. He made me read the Kite Runner. And I couldn't, I was crying for the next few weeks. And then he brought the Thousand Splendid Suns. And I started reading the book and I was like, no, I'm sorry. Life is good. I want life to remain this way, and I cannot. I refuse to read the Thousand Splendid Suns. Also, that comes from a sense of privilege because you can miss out
Of
on such
course,
stories.
of course.
And I realize it, but it's just, I realize what you're talking about, and it's heartbreaking because he knows the right beats. He knows where to hurt and where to punch you. Exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely. मैंने इसलिए गलती कर दी. I bought this another Afghan book. For some reason, I just like the name of it a lot. The Bookseller of Kabul is the name of this book. It's basically about this bookseller, a man who जो smuggle करके वापस अफगानिस्तान में books लाता था ताकि वहाँ की लड़कियां पढ़ पाए ये books. So it's about that. It's about the उस time like late 19th and 20th century के around जब तो बहुत ज्यादा भी war वगैरह हो रहा था यहाँ पे तब का stories है. And I don't know if I want to read this now, but I bought this because see, if you are in Mumbai and if you are in near Kolaba and you have to buy books. Like it's just, so I just had to buy this book basically. So yeah, but I'm not sure if I'll read this anytime soon because you just know what you're getting into, right? And in abstract, I think the first two books we ever picked up were The Kite Runner and The Thousand Splendid Suns.
Wow.
And like I'm very happy if we haven't gone that emotional again. But for some reason, even though even though these are women's stories, I'm still able to, like, obviously I'm feeling sad for them and everything, obviously. But being a man, एक अलग level पे एक hit होता है for some reason. For example, similar thing happened to me when I watched Portrait of a Lady on Fire, the film. It's not about men. It's not about me at all. Like, I don't know why there are certain films, certain books that you don't even relate to directly, but it still affects you so much. Not just because you feel pity for them, but there's just, you feel pity for humanity. I don't know what you feel sad for, or any this cathartic feeling you get. So I think Thousand Minutes पढ़ने के बाद में मेरे को वैसा ही कुछ vibe आया था. It's very sad for some reason.
I think what happened to me when I was reading was it's just you can't believe for a second. You can't believe for a second that people like that exist. But then
Yeah.
you realize, hey, it's actually
Everywhere.
based on lives of different people, and then you kind of are terrorized that hey, you kind of feel like a very small speck of dust in the entire world, and then you're not being able, you just feel I just felt miserable when I read Dear Zari, because I was like, hey, it wasn't like, hey, I'm chilling and these women are going through this. It was more like, hey, look at the plight of women, and I really want to be able to do something about it, but I just feel helpless because I can't. And then the moment you start running something like, you become a part of something like Chalchitra Talks or maybe the Abstract Room, you realize, hey, there's a way to make conversation about it. And perhaps that's where you start. And I'm very glad everyone who I've introduced to Dear Zari, because it's one of my favorite books. But then I feel a small... I feel sad when I say it's my favorite book, because I think, hey, it's much more than a favorite book. It's much more than a book in itself. I think that's the effect books also have on you. Yeah. But there's this we got into a very serious narrative. I want to talk about this book called Sense of an Ending. It's by Julian Barnes. And I think that was the first time I discovered what you would say relationship with memory. The first page in itself, it talks about something that happened years ago, probably 20-30 years ago, like the water flowing in, the tap running, the tap being held open, etc. etc. And then the author very slyly comments like, hey, this is how I remember it. And he every time he tells you something in the book, he kind of hints at, hey, this is how I remember it. Cut to eventually you realize, okay, whatever he remembered was because he wanted to remember it that way. It perhaps happened in a very different way, and then you realize, okay, this is our relationship with memory. We learn to, we learn to direct it in ways that we want to be okay with. So for example, you kind of that happens even in therapy, when sometimes you realize, oh, all this while I was remembering it the wrong way. It was very perhaps traumatic, but you kind of shield yourself with the memory you create. And I think that is one book where you can start, which you can start with if you want to discover a relationship with memory.
Because you mentioned that, मेरे को याद आया relationship with history के ऊपर. Like history, not like just general history, but your history, your culture's history, your tradition's history, your caste's history, and how you can never get over it, in the sense that, like, if you are from a lower caste or an oppressed community, you can never not have that identity attached to you all the time. Like, it will always be around you, that identity. Like, a privileged person can have the choice to be apolitical or not casteist, but that's a privilege and not something. The book I'm talking about is The God of Small Things, by Arundhati Roy. So the thing is, even though it's, for a very long time in the book, it feels like a thriller, sometimes something else, but eventually it is about forbidden love, and how that led to such a huge crisis of communities. And you don't realize that till the very end, that it's actually about love and not about somebody, किसी बच्ची का murder हो गया, so it's a crime thriller. It's not that. It's about love, basically, and about forbidden love, and how, because of your relationship with your own history, there's this ancient trauma that you're carrying with yourself, or this ancient baggage you're carrying with yourself, जिसकी वजह से तुम लोग चाहकर भी तुम लोग साथ में नहीं रह सकते, क्योंकि तू घर पे उसके माली है और ये तेरी मालकिन है, तुम साथ में नहीं रह सकते. Like, basically that was the case here as well. And it was, the writing is so dense, sometimes it's confusing, but it's so dense that इतना beautifully वो निकल के आता है ना, because there's no real conversation happening between the two protagonists who are in love. It's just eyes, it's just very ugly, unhygienically explained love, not like sanitized at all, the way it's explained. So I like that unsanitized approach to showing love, showing infatuation, and just bodily love for that matter. So I think God of Small Things is another wonderful book. And one I forgot to mention, because I thought about crime, was Crime and Punishment. So many people remember Crime and Punishment as like a philosophical discourse, and existentialism, and this and that, and like a commentary on the point of life, and like just a lot of those things, and like a very, very dark things, but not about love. The book, if you read it entirely, you will realize it eventually is about love, and how our main guy never realizes that all he required was to be with this person whom he already loved, and he was just not giving the person proper attention. And jab wo eventually, like, it's not exactly a spoiler because you know what's going to happen, but jab wo jail jata hai, it's the first time, like, throughout the book he wants to die, but जब वो लास्ट में जेल जाता है, that's the only time he feels like living. He's like, no, I will get out of this jail 8 years later, because I want to be with this woman and I want to live a proper life. Like, for the first time in his life, he's feeling that. And the book ends on that note. And the entire book is not about love, but it's always there, somehow looming in the vicinity of it, करके background में रहता है. And it comes out at the end, and I realized कि यार ये तो बड़ा smart move था. Even for that matter, Fight Club also seems like a thriller, like ये असली में कौन है, are they one people, two people, or whatever. But eventually, if you realize have you seen the Fight Club film? Okay, so it basically last में जाके पूरी, so last में जाके वो पूरी basically दुनिया, मतलब basically सारा banks को जला देता है and bomb blast कर देता है. So if at that point, the moment, it's based on a book, so the moment is that he's standing with the girl who was there since the beginning, and he's finally with her, in a sense. It's a very different take on Fight Club that I personally have. Like, it's actually a love story, and our main guy was messed up in his head, and he finally realized the importance of this girl at the end, when he's done with his mission or done with his psychological whatever he was facing. So I think eventually everything comes down to love, and this feeling belonged somewhere. So
Yeah.
these books which don't seem about love are also about love, is what I was trying to get to, or like relationships in some sense.
True. I realized this when I was researching the books that I have to talk about today. If you want any, you can perhaps derive most of the emotions from most of the books. You can find relationships everywhere. You can find a book that might be actually a romantic book. So, for example, I think Pride and Prejudice, even though termed very romantic, heavily romantic, looked at as a romance book, I think it's a beautiful commentary on society
Yeah.
and relationships, of course, eventually, but like a beautiful commentary on society and our relationship with it. And yeah, you a book is whatever you want it to be.
Of course, of course. And you know, some writers, if people are into short stories more, because let's say investing time in a full as book about relationships might be
True.
difficult. So there are short stories like about human relationships, by writers like Ismat Chugtai, Manto,
Yeah.
even like one of my these are my favorites, along with Anton Chekhov and O. Henry. The way they have talked about human relationships beyond love in a romantic sense as well, uh, is I haven't seen that anywhere. And like I'm just very glad again that because abstract started, because I was able to be exposed to these forms of literature a lot, तो मेरे को जानने मिला इसके बारे में. So Chekhov is basically बताओ ना तो literature में Chekhov is Imtiaz Ali for me. He's a very romantic
Yeah.
guy, even though it doesn't seem like that.
Yeah.
Manto is a very Anurag Kashyap guy. Like I have these names for everybody basically. Like for Isma Chugtai is a very, I forgot his name. This French filmmaker from the past. I forgot. Shit. If anybody remembers their name from the French New Wave film. Uh, Forgot her name. I'm very sorry. But like
Oh,
basically, like a very bold feminist who doesn't care, is what Ismat is for me. And like I've named everyone based on these film people because it gives me a sense of accessibility and मुझे समझाने में आसान हो जाता है. किसी और को समझाना हो कि यार ये अनुराग कश्यप है इसलिए पढ़ दो या ये ऐसा है तो ऐसे पढ़ दो.
nice.
So it's
So that's
just
a good
fun.
technique we should also start using.
Yeah, because I think what happens is that even what happens is like for people like you as well and us as well, when we are, it's one thing to know things, and it's one thing to know how to articulate and how you present that. So you might know 1,000 things about A Thousand Splendid Suns or any other book for that matter, बट आप उसको कितना डिस्टिल्ड तरीके से समझा पा रहे हो ना सामने वाले को कि ये क्यों ले तू. इट्स लाइक अ सेल्समैन्स वर्क बेसिकली. कितना आसानी से उसको आप समझा पा रहे हो कि उसकी भाषा में कि क्यों पढ़नी चाहिए क्यों नहीं पढ़नी चाहिए या anything for that matter is what sells the thing for you. So I think I profess a lot about that, like how much can you distill it in their language. Like complicate करना बड़ा आसान है चीजों को, you know, when you are presenting something, but
Yeah.
how can you easyfy it for people is what actually becomes a selling point, like for yourself and for because you have a new voice for yourself, right, in that sense as well. तो मैं कुछ भी बोलूंगा लास्ट में प्लेटो ओपी डाल दूंगा ताकि मैं थोड़ा बैलेंस आउट कर दूं उस चीज को. So we had a
Right.
session recently on Plato. So every time we were reading his stuff, and हर 2 मिनट में like भाई प्लेटो ओपी भाई क्या बोला प्लेटो ओपी like हम मस्ती में कर रहे हैं ऐसे basically because it
True.
just क्योंकि आप फिलोसफी इतना हो जाते हो ना कि आप you forget that ये सब आपको इम्बाइब भी करना है शायद ही या फिर you know you have to it's रियलिटी में ही हो आप अभी भी. तो it just helps you ground yourself a lot. तो इसलिए मैं बीच बीच में ऐसे मस्करी करते रहता हूँ. It really helps me.
Which is nice. I feel like we're two teachers who are exchanging notes. ये बच्चों को ऐसे ज़्यादा किताबें पढ़ा सकते हैं. But this is nice. Do you have any final recommendations? Because oh, I have one.
Oh,
There's
I
this.
didn't show the abstract ka pura list actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's a big list happening over there as well. Should I read some out?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please do.
Yeah. So namesake हो गया, Mori हो गया. So there's this play by Mahesh Eklanchwar. Uh, Sonata नाम है play का. It's about relationships. So if anybody's into plays, then Sonata is the name of the play. There is Ministry of Utmost Happiness, another book by Amriti Roy. There is 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. Then there is Anxious People by Frederick Backman, the person who wrote A Man Called Ove. There is Beautiful World, Where Are You? There is Conversations with Friends. Then there is I'll Give You the Sun, Letters to Vera. Then, my God, there are a lot. Should I stop or what should I
No,
do?
please go on.
Okay, okay. So there is The Unbearable Lightness of Being. There is Communion Bell Hooks. See, some of these I don't know. I'm just reading out. तो मैंने list सबने मुझे
Yeah.
भेजी. They're very sweet. They were like, जा रहे हो तो अपना मतलब नाम रोशन करके आओ basically. So they're like ये सब सारे recommendation ले लो, कुछ नहीं
This
छोड़ना
is so sweet.
है. So there is M and the Big Boom. There is Me, All, and the Dying Girl. There is Looking for Alaska. The Lowland. Lowland, I know it's the book by Jhumpa Lahiri. There is so Lowland, if I remember correctly. So we had abstract में ना, we had recently gone on a trek, like a literature trek sort of a thing, like an art trek. So people from Mumbai and Pune, all of us, around 25 of us, had gone to this trek in Lonavala. हम लोग शाम को निकले and रात को we climbed
I
and all.
hope everyone from Bombay and Pune from Chalchitra Talks and Kitaabi cabins is listening to this one. Because
Yes,
it's like an
yes.
event alert.
अभी बारिश है तो अभी नहीं जाएंगे, but उसके बाद में definitely जाएंगे.
Yeah.
So what we did was we went ऊपर कहीं पे and tent वेंट बिछा दी, सब कर लिया and torch लगा दिया. हम सब तो नहीं बैठे, सबको इंटरेस्ट था नहीं उस पर पढ़ने में, बाहर लोग अपनी मस्करी कर रहे हैं, बाहर कुछ अपना कर रहे हैं. 10 people of us, what we did, हमने एक माहौल बनाया and हमने Lowland पढ़ना शुरू किया साथ में. So for 2 hours we were just reading together. We were reading Javed Akhtar's poetry, I think Gulzar's poetry and Akhtar's poetry. We were reading Lowland and it was a vibe basically. It was such a beautiful vibe, like trek पे ठंडी लग रही है ढंग से and गर्मी का टाइम है, we didn't realize ना कि we have to bring something to wear like extra, but ध्यान नहीं है कि ऊपर जाके actually ठंडा ही होता है. But my goodness, मतलब how we were sitting, but such a beautiful experience just reading. So I think our entire intention of doing that was, यार लोग ट्रैक पे जाते हैं, ठीक है करते हैं, लेकिन we want to do like have a niche of a literature track और कुछ अलग करके जाएंगे करने. So basically we did that.
Ideas.
Yeah.
हम ये भी कर सकते हैं. Cool. This is something we'll also try, guys.
Collab करेंगे.
Deval is still here. Deval is from Pune. And Deval Pagdandi के बाद like abstract rooms is another thing you should definitely try. She's
Deval,
read
if you-
every. Deval is a part of she's a godfather, she's a patron,
Yeah.
and she's a part of a book club, and it's so difficult to pick up any book in ABAM if you consider Deval, because she's read everything. You name any book, 9 out of 10 chances she's read it, and she's like, हाँ यार वो तो पढ़ा है यार, नहीं. We're like, oh, okay. But yeah, that's Deval, but she's absolutely wonderful. I love her.
That's
But
lovely. We would love to meet you ever if you're here in Pune. So like if you want to know more about how Pune meets work of abstract, then please text me on or DM me on abstract Instagram. I can like let you know how it works. But yeah, the more other ones that were there is the silent raga there, or rag. There is the inheritance of loss, and 3 things about LC. There is It Ends With Us. A lot of these are the last song, Jane Eyre. So
it's
basically,
quite like they wanted you to make them proud. I hope you've done them proud.
yeah.
I know you've done them
I
proud. I hope they feel the same.
I mean, like
Guys,
अगर आपको हमने कल बुलाया और आपने मुझे यहाँ बुला लिया, तो I'm pretty sure success rate अच्छा ही था हमारा.
yeah.
So-
Guys, abstract OP kar do everyone who's here from abstract, who's still here from abstract.
I
And
think Rani are there.
yeah. And before we go, I want to recommend this book that I discovered recently. It's called Hourglass and it's by Danny Shapiro. It's about time, memory, and marriage. Okay, I was pointing. It's about, and I think it's one of the most lovely books I've read on marriage, how a relationship is on marriage. And there's this paragraph that I just want to read out. I actually want to read
Yeah.
out a lot of things, but
We have talked about this book, Kisi mein, na, if I'm not wrong.
yeah.
Something you have talked about this, yeah.
True. Yes, but there's this beautiful thing that she says. She married. She calls her husband M, and this was her third marriage. Like she had divorced 2 people before
Right.
she met M, and he got very insecure because I think this was his first marriage, and she was like a little. He was like, "Hey, I'm a little insecure, etc., etc." And she writes this. I do not. I did not. I did not know how to express to M that this relationship was different. Special had nothing to do with the slip dress by the Belgian designer that I would wear that June, nor the flower bedecked chuppah draped with my father's talus. Special was not the prelude to Bach's cello suite number one, nor the loin of lamb in the private dining room of the old school French restaurant. It was not the delicate diamond band of leaves and flowers, nor the provincial honeymoon. Special was that I had no exit strategy. Special was that I understood I was in it for life, come what may, for better or for worse. And I love this line, that's special. Like, this is the thing about relationships. Like, the moment you know, you think it, you have checklist for relationships, and you think like,
Right.
oh, it'll be nice if he has a nice nose. It'll be nice if, you know, he kind of is like 5'10" and he went to this school, or if he's just this way, this is how he looks, and you know, if he's polite, if he opens the doors for me, this is how I think the relationship will be perfect. But then you realize it's the most basic things. Like, a relationship being special is like, hey, you don't have any backup, you don't have an exit strategy. It was that in life, come what may, for better or for worse, I'll be there with you. And like, this are small things that kind of define a relationship. And I think I've just like marked it with hearts also, which I don't usually
That's
do.
lovely.
This is like my final recommendation, Hourglass by Danny Shapiro. I kind of fortunately I'm discovering books that I really want to recommend and I can't shut up about. So like you said, like, you know, बोला था ना इसके बारे में, तो क्या almost her stream
नहीं,
पे
वो इसलिए भी हो सकता है ना कि मतलब मैं हर चीज देखता रहता हूँ, इसलिए ऐसा इसलिए भी हो सकता
like
है.
genuinely spoke about it a lot. I wrote about it in my
Yeah.
newsletter. If anybody from is watching, you can share the link to the newsletters also, guys. But I wrote about it in my newsletters. I spoke about it in so many streams. Like her like for 2 months, I was just talking about it wherever I could, in every guest episode, in every. And I just think like Loki, it's very unfortunate that we're in the business of recommending stuff because everything has an expiry date, but to
Right.
have something that make you want to speak so much about it, I think that's a nice sign. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course it is. I just want to talk about this last short story that I
Yeah.
love. It's by Anton Chekhov. It's called The Darling. Uh,
No,
it,
that's a wonderful name.
yeah, so it's basically a story about this woman who, basically speaking, does not have any opinions of her own. She's not seen the world. She's not educated and वगैरह. So वो उसका पार्टनर जैसा होता है ना, वो वैसे ही ढल जाती है. So अगर पार्टनर बोलेगा आम तो वो बोलेगी आम, अगर पार्टनर बोलेगा इमली तो वो बोलेगी इमली. Basically, she doesn't have a mind of her own in that sense, and it's not just a partner in a romantic sense. There are 3 or 4 relationships that she has in the course of the short story. First is obviously a romantic one. Then the person goes away, like मैं आऊंगा वापस पर आया नहीं. So the next one who comes in is an older man. वो कुछ सिखाता है उसको, and she just blindly believes it. Then तीसरा कोई आता है, कोई आंटी आती है, तो उनकी बात वो समझ लेती है कि हाँ यही सच है दुनिया का. एंड लास्ट में एक बच्चा होता है जिसको उसका ध्यान रखना होता है. ही इज नैनी और हिम, एंड वो जो बोलता है वो सच हो जाता है उसके लिए. द एंटायर स्टोरी इज अबाउट हाउ योर रिलेशनशिप्स, how your opinions and your perspectives evolve with relationships. Sometimes you tend to emulate them pura, and it's about that, like how she went for a certain amount of time in the story. उसके पास में कोई relationship नहीं होता है, and she feels so suffocated because it's like it's होता है ना कि मुझे पानी नहीं मिल रहा है, मुझे opinions नहीं मिल रहे. I need somebody to tell me how the world works, basically. So, like, just how relationships provided her that sense of having opinions, even though they were not her own. But I just loved that aspect of it because I think your the way you speak sometimes, the opinions you have, or just छोटी चीजें काफी affect हो जाती है when the relationship that you have.
I remember I
Yeah.
used to think, like, I used to say, okay, um, you know, like if you're in a relationship and if it's really, you know, honest and if it's really meant to last, you won't change yourself. You'll just, the other person will accept you for who you are. And then I slowly realized that, hey, perhaps, you know, over time, you kind of transform yourself unknowingly without them asking for it because you want the other person to be happy. And that's kind of nice. And
Yeah.
this is what I remembered when you saw this. It's kind of like the way, the moment we talk about romantic relationship, I get very awkward. Or like in general, because I'm like, huh, okay, so this is it. But yeah. Just
आई थिंक
exist.
आई थिंक सिक्स स्टैंडर्ड वाले संकल्प ने पता है एक बात बोली थी जो मैंने कहीं
Six,
से
sorry,
उठाई।
what?
सिक्स स्टैंडर्ड वाले संकल्प
अच्छा,
ने एक
okay.
बात बोली थी तुमको याद है, लाइक आई लाइक दिस गर्ल एंड वट एवर एंड आई सॉर्ट ऑफ सेड दैट मैं तुम्हारे लिए सुधर सकता हूँ, बदल नहीं सकता। यार मेरे को इतना ऐसे पोएट वाली फीलिंग।
Oh my God. Yeah, that's something. इससे मुझे याद है like Meredith said this to Derek Shepherd in Grey's Anatomy. I'm not going to apologize to what I'm doing to fix what you broke. And I think that line is stuck. And I've used it at least 10,000 times on my parents and other people. I am not going to apologize about how I'm fixing what you broke. And this is something like मैं तुम्हारे लिए सुधर सकता हूँ, बदल
बदल
नहीं
नहीं सकता, है ना? मस्त कॉपीराइट करा देता हूँ इसका।
But this is nice, Sankalp. Thank you. I think how it's way past our bedtimes now.
या कल भी
And
हुआ, आज भी हुआ।
yeah,
Yeah, guys, for
yesterday.
people who are there here, like if they don't know, so Vaani was supposed to be there tomorrow in abstract discussion for 15 minutes. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh, and she stayed till 1 o'clock, almost 1 o'clock, like 2.5 hours or 2 hours at least.
yeah.
So like those
It
in
was,
continuously,
yeah.
I'm
And
not
then
able to let
eventually
us
I
sleep on
realized
time.
like everyone is leaving. I'm the only person left, and I was like, hey guys, I also need to go. But this is absolutely wonderful, guys. If you get the chance to check out Abstract Room, they're doing an amazing, amazing job. And I think I had one of them. Like, I really want to set an example for everyone who is a part of ABAM. Guys, like, they really have good discussions because everyone completes the book. हमें भी किताबें पढ़ना लाइक कंप्लीट करना स्टार्ट करना पड़ेगा बट दिस वाज अ वंडरफुल सेशन या संकल्प थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग एंड आई
I'm
होप वी
so glad
कैन
you invited me, genuinely.
yeah, and I hope we can have more such sessions in the future. I hope you'll invite me for the time when you'll be doing um, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, especially then. And but yeah, this is amazing, Sankalp, and I'll just for everyone who's still watching, thank you so much, guys, and I hope you had a nice Thursday evening now. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. कल हम VM Square stream करेंगे on Chalchitra Talks, and. I'll see you guys. And of course, if you're from Chandigarh and the neighboring area, the Tri City, we are doing a meetup this weekend and at 10:30 in the morning, Sunday ko subah jaldi उठ जाना, and we'll be doing it in Social Sector 7. It'll be the first offline session of our book club, and I'll see you guys there. And yes, Adeval has written a very nice comment. Absolutely lovely discussion. Kitabi Cabin OP, Chalchitra OP, Abstract, and Sankalp OP. Really nice. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Deval.
Thank you so
And
much, Vani, like for inviting me and like joining yesterday as well. Like everybody had such good things to say about you, and not just because of you joining yesterday, but because like personally also I've followed Chalchitra's journey for some time, and you and Vaibhav and everybody have been sort of an inspiration, and just how you can grow something from absolutely nothing and just keep at it. So I think in that sense, it's a very good reference point for me to keep at it. And I'm just very glad I found the right time to connect with you. Samraj has been a wonderful help, Samraj OP. But
yeah,
but I just knew I could reach out to him to ask you, but I just felt like right time hona chahiye. So I'm just glad I'm able to reach out to you and just
yeah.
do this. So I'm very glad. Like doors are open for you, hamesha, like abstract, like
Thanks. That's
group
really
discussion, film
kind.
discussion, anything.
It's very kind.
But and like please do invite me whenever.
Definitely. But thank you guys. And do like, share the stream, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Sankalp's channel. It's the link is in the comments below, so you can check out the website, you can check out the Abstract Room on Instagram and also on YouTube. And I'll see you guys tomorrow and have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And कल हम a book a month announce करने वाले हैं, the book for the next month, so stay tuned for that as well. And I'll just